Hello and welcome to another episode of the Top Dogs podcast here on the Field of 68 Media Network. We have to talk about UConn's win over Illinois in Madison Square Garden today, Friday, the day after Thanksgiving. It was a 74-61 win for the Huskies, one where a couple concerning things at the end, where we got a couple important faces back. But I think the single biggest talking point and the biggest piece of news that we have coming out of UConn's win on Friday is that the coaching staff, instead of doing the stupid fucking finger twirly thing every single time they want to review a call, they do the VAR. They do the VAR symbols. They do the video assistant referee symbols from, I guess it's from the Euro League, but it is something that I see in soccer every weekend when I watch Tottenham. These guys lose. And then increasingly more embarrassing fashion every week. So thanks for the reminder for that. But UConn gets the win 74-61. The headline obviously was Terrace Reed and Braylon Mullins being back. Dan told us afterwards they were on a 15-minute restriction today as they're both kind of getting their ankles back into shape and kind of get their legs back under them. Hopefully it'll be more than just 15 minutes that they are allowed to play at Kansas. But the big news is they're both healthy. They're both back. We got the Braylon Mullins experience. We got him blooded. He saw the court for the first time in a game that actually counted. And, you know, Terrace didn't look great. I'm not going to lie to you. He did not look like he was moving well. He was about a half a step slow, it looked like, on some of those hedges for some of the ball screens. If it was really a high ankle sprain that he was dealing with, those are painful and ones that are kind of hard to come back from. So shout out to him for playing. Bears don't feel pain, so I think that he's probably going to end up being okay in the long term there. But it's good to see him back on the court. And even if it was just a big body out there today, it was some of the big bodies that Illinois had today. I think eventually, and I'm not really breaking news here, this isn't really a hot take, but I think eventually the best team that UConn will be able to put out there. I don't know if it'll be their starters, but I think the best team that they'll be able to put out there will be Silas, Solo, Braylon, Alex, and Terrace. Three guys that are absolutely dead eye shooters running off of screens. The idea of forcing every team's four-man to have to be able to run after Alex off of screens when you already have to make sure that you don't leave Solo ball and you don't leave Braylon Mullins, and you have to have someone paying attention to Terrace Reed in the post, and you also have to at some point have help for Silas Demery. Is just like, I don't know what you do, man. I don't know where the answer is. I don't know how you stop that. I don't know how you slow it down. It's kind of one of those pick your poison kind of a deals. But if they get going, if that team gets rolling the way that I hope it gets rolling, this is going to be a really, really fun offense to watch. Huge day for Alex today. I thought that we really saw the best of what he provides as the connective piece and the piece that makes all of those other pieces kind of fit together, right? He had 12 points. He knocked down two big threes off of screens, 9 rebounds against a team where you really had to fight on the boards. He had 3 blocks a couple of times where he was able to come over and help and get to the weak side and block a shot. 5 assists. You know, the value that he provides, and I'm going to drop the audio in from tonight's episode of After Dark. I recorded it with Sam Ravitch, who also happens to be a UConn fan, and Mike Latulip, who is, one of my good friends in this business now, and a guy whose opinion and evaluations I respect almost as much as anybody when it comes to kind of talking about these teams and what they can do. He played for the Illini. He knows the Illinois program really, really well. So I think that you'll get some insightful commentary. He's a little more the Illinois angle in this game, but again, like you guys heard him in the preview episode, he really, really knows his stuff, and I think you will get a lot out of listening to him kind of talk about his opinion on these two teams. But for Alex, the importance of having him there is that he forces you to make a decision about how you are going to defend them, right? Especially when you're dealing with these teams that are going to be playing two bigs. And there's a lot of teams at the top of the sport this year that tend to lean towards playing two bigs together. Purdue plays two bigs together. Arizona plays two bigs together. Michigan plays freaking three bigs together. Um, I would make the argument those are probably three of the best teams in college basketball right now. You might be able to put Gonzaga in that conversation. They play two bigs together. And what Alex does is, since he can functionally operate as a three coming off of these screens, and he can also hold his own against a lot of these big guys that are not the bulldozers like a Koa Pete or a Bryce Hopkins, and I'll get to that in a second. But a lot of these big guys, like the David Markovich, who's strong and wants to get to the glass, but aren't really the kind of guys that are going to break you down off the dribble from about 15 feet away. He can do that. He can get over in weak side rotation, man. He's so old and such a veteran that he's great when it comes to boxing out. He's got the length where, he can get a fingertip on a ball and kind of keep it alive and trust that one of his guards will be able to chase it down. He can do everything you need a four-man to do defensively adequately enough, and probably saying adequately enough does not do him justice for how well he can do it, but he does it at a level that's high enough where the benefit you get from forcing other opposing force to have to do those things where you chase them around screens, it just makes him such an advantage and such a piece where you can really take advantage of the way that he creates those mismatches. Like David Markovich, 4 times in the first half, got completely lost chasing him off of screens. I think on the third possession of the game, he tried to go under a screen and Alex stepped behind it and just banged home a three. A couple of possessions later, he tried to trail him off a screen and wasn't there soon enough. And Alex was able to go get a paint touch. And I think he kicked it out to, I want to say it was Jalen Stewart, who hit a three from the right wing. That was right there in front of me. There was another one later in the second half where they ran a bunch of false motion and false action just to get Alex coming off of a double screen off to the left and over to the top of the key. And Markovich was a little bit late, and Alex was able to get the shot off and bang the three home from the top of the key. That was late in the first half. It just, it forces you to have to play to their style. And then what happens is, we saw it with Illinois tonight, they were forced to go to a smaller lineup. Like they went to that lineup where they had Stojakovic trying to chase around Carabin, and they put Ben Humbrickhouse in there and had Humbrickhouse guarding UConn's point guard. And that created opportunities for Malachi Smith to be able to beat big guys off the dribble. It makes them so difficult to guard that is where the advantage comes in. And Alex, to me, is kind of the key that makes all of that other stuff work. Right? Like, I don't know how well that other stuff works when Alex isn't playing the way that he played tonight. So he's never going to be one of these guys that really just pops off the screen. But when he's playing confident and when he's playing aggressive and he played like he did tonight, it can, my personal opinion is that how well UConn is playing offensively and how good they are as a team in a specific game can be directly correlated with the impact that Alex Carabin is having, not just as a shooter, because there's going to be nights where he makes a bunch of threes but doesn't really play all that well. The way that he plays, I think, determines how well UConn will be. And when he is winning his matchups, I think that changes what UConn's ceiling can be, which is kind of a weird thing to say about a guy who is fundamentally the best, maybe the best role player in all of college basketball. But it's really impressive to see. I think that will become even more effective once Terrence gets back, back to full strength. I think one of the big things without Terrence out there is he's the one guy that provides a real differentiation when it comes to skill sets, right? He is the guy, and probably the only guy on the roster, where you can throw the ball into him in the post and expect him to be able to get a shot up, get fouled, get an angle, and have something good come out of it. He is the best player on the team when it comes to being able to take up space and get in the way of people. It's not really blocking shots as much as it is blocking angles and making it difficult for guys to get all the way to the rim. He's probably the best that UConn has at that part on the defensive end. Eric Ribo's been a little bit better, and we can talk about that here in a second. But yeah, the ability to throw the ball. We talked about this with Adama Sanogo, right? Like, I remember there was a game, Sanogo was out. I think this was the year RJ Cole was the point guard, and they played Providence at home and got beat by like 25. and I think it was in the XL Center by Providence when Adama Sanogo wasn't there. And the issue was that Providence, and this was still in Ed Cooley's era in Providence, they could just switch everything and they didn't have to worry about you throwing the ball into the post where you could take advantage of that. Because when you're switching everything on the perimeter, you're kind of saying the guy in the post is going to be one-on-one for the most part. And, um, even when you're kind of going over everything like other teams do, when you have to put so much attention and focus on what you're doing on the perimeter, a lot of times that will open up the opportunity to throw the ball into the block because defenses are not paying attention to that. And instead of just kind of having the ball go around and around like this on the perimeter, the top to the wing, along the baseline, out to the corner, blah, 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 you can just throw the ball into the middle and play off of that and let something happen. And he's the only guy that can really do that. Big men, when they don't have to worry about the guy that they're guarding really being an offensive threat or being able to kind of seal them and get position, they can feel a little bit better about roaming. And when Terrace Reed is at his best, you can't do that. I thought Malachi Smith tonight was absolutely sensational. Mally's world, right? He had 14 and 9. Obviously, he made that ridiculous shot at the end, which was a little bit more fluky than it was anything else. But he had 2 other big threes. The fact that he didn't turn the ball over and was able to set people up was incredibly huge again, especially when he was dealing with Kai Boswell a lot defensively. On the other end of the floor, like he had a block on Kai Boswell. He was really tough on that end. Fought over screens, I thought better than the other guys did tonight. It's funny. UConn went from not having a point guard last season, really, to having 2 guys, especially when Hassan got hurt, to having 2 guys that are just absolutely terrific at that position. And I think the most important thing, and I said this a little bit more on After Dark, you'll hear it. The most important thing is that I don't think Malachi has a problem with kind of being the backup guy if he needs to be, right? Like this was a kid that missed basically 2 straight seasons with injuries. I can't remember what they were off the top of my head, but I think he broke a foot and then came back and then tore an ACL 7 minutes into his second game. Might have been the other way around. He might have torn an ACL and then come back and broke his foot 7 minutes into the next season. Whatever it was, like he basically went 2 years playing just 7 minutes, which is an absolutely brutal thing for any college athlete, any athlete period to deal with. And I think he's just, the fact that he's able to play and play on a good team and be this relevant nationally is something that it's why he's here, man. He came here knowing that he was going to be backing up Silas Demery. Speaking of Silas, I thought both him and Solo, when UConn has looked their best so far this season, it's when Solo has gotten going and Silas Demery has gotten going. And when both of them are playing well offensively, it completely lifts the roof off of what UConn has the potential to be. We saw it early on against BYU. Both of those guys got hot. And we saw it tonight in the first probably 12 minutes. I thought both of those guys played terrific, And then what happened with Silas is the fouls kind of got him out of rhythm. I think he picked up his second with 7 minutes left. And then on the first possession defensively, he picked up his third. And I don't think he came back in until about the 12-minute mark, something like that. So he basically sat for an entire half plus halftime. And he just never was able to find his way back into the rhythm in the game once he got back in there. And that's a tough thing. But the talent is there. The ability is there. We saw the triple-double. We saw what he did down the stretch against BYU when he kind of put that game away. He's terrific, man. I have no doubts that he's going to find a way to be able to do it. I do think, and I'll talk about this a little bit here in a second, but I do think one of the big things for him is going to be figuring out the time and the space and the place and when he should be aggressive. And he will be able to get there at some point soon. The Solo knocked down a couple early. It's very clearly something in his head that he's dealing with the 3-point shots. Like Dan told me tonight that that he had Ray Allen talk with him afterwards and got him going a little bit to be able to just kind of say, this is what you need to do as a shooter. And this is how you got to be able to kind of fix some of the things that you're dealing with there on that end of the floor. We see what he's doing at the free throw line. We see what he's doing off the dribble. Like he's making a lot of the shots that he's taking. It's just the threes aren't going down, and he's too good of a shooter not to be able to have that happening. So I'm not super concerned about that. There's going to be a night here coming up where he goes absolutely bonkers off of threes, and once he gets back to being himself, like the ceiling comes off what this team can be. Rybo was fantastic. He's been a revelation, man. Like there was a point in time in the off season where actually it was probably a little bit towards the end of last season where there has been questions about what he is going to end up being, right? Does he stay committed? Does he go the way of Darius Adams? And he did not. He had a really good summer playing with the German national team, came in, played really well in some of the exhibitions. The finishing was not great early on. He's gotten better in that area. Like it's been really impressive to see how much he has grown in just like the first month that he's been playing, right? And that makes me believe that like Braylon Mullins, once he kind of has that same kind of growth, the ceiling is going to come off. Like he's going to be unbelievable. But Rybo, man, like he really has allowed UConn to be able to go to this 25 minutes for Terrace Reed, 15 minutes for Ryba goal. I think that's what they'll be able to get to with the way that he's been playing. He's blocking shots. He's finishing at the rim. He's rebounding. Some of those threes are going to start going down. His development is going to be absolutely massive for UConn, and I feel very, very good about him finding a way to be able to get there. Finishing games is a thing that, I'm personally not that concerned about it. When you are trying to run clock and it's very clear they're trying to run clock, right? They do that thing where the ball goes in, they walk to go get it while it's bouncing, then they kind of just toss it in, and they let it bounce, and they wait until someone gets close to pick it up and try to drain 10 seconds off the clock after every made basket. And if you do that 6 times, it cuts a minute of game time out. So I get it. It makes sense. I think the issue is that when you do that, so much of what you're doing at the end of a possession is going to rely on one-on-one stuff. And the two guys that are going to be their best one-on-one perimeter players in Solo Ball and Silas Demery are just like not quite where they need to be yet in terms of what they can do and the ability that they have. And once they really get going, then I think that will change the way that some of these games finish. And then the other guy is Terrace Reed. And, Terrace is, one, you need to be able to have somebody throw the ball into him. And two, it's a little bit more limiting when you are a big guy who's at his best, when he's able to get seal and get low position. So I'm not, look, they're going to be able to figure that out, especially once Silas gets going. I feel like we had this conversation about the team it was either 23 or 24, where they would get up huge and then kind of let people back into it. Not quite at this level, but I mean, I'm not overly concerned. Look, the bottom line is this: it's easier to figure out how to be able to stem the tide when you're up 20 against top 15 teams than it is to find a way to be able to get up 20 points when you're playing against top 15 teams. So they figured out how to do the hard part. Now they just got to figure out how to do the easy part at a higher level. And I think that they're going to be just fine. It's not a concern that I really have with this group, but hell of a win, hell of a performance, hell of a Thanksgiving. That's a lot better for the Huskies in last Thanksgiving was losing 3 in a row in the Maui Invitational. But yeah, a lot of fun to watch. On to Kansas. Let's get into that episode of After Dark. Here's our segment from tonight's show. As you know by now, we have teamed up with BetMGM again this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we will have special offers for Field of 68 fans, including same-game parlays, best-in-class live betting, and daily odds boost. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code FIELD to get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. You download the BetMGM app, you sign up using bonus code FIELD, you deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use that bonus code FIELD when you sign up. Make this college basketball season one for the history books. Make it legendary. And don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code FIELD and get your $1,500 first bet offer today. There is no sport in America that is more difficult to follow than college basketball. It can be overwhelming. That's where the Field of 68 Daily comes into play. The Daily is your go-to source for injury updates, recruiting news, and transfer portal additions that actually matter. For just $50 a year, get access to the same information that your favorite team's coaching staff is subscribed for. Quality content can be hard to find in the college basketball space. The Daily is here to help you with that.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Field of 68 After Dark, presented by BetMGM, alongside Rob Doster and Mike LaTulip. Smile on Doster's face, rightfully so. Maybe a little bit of a frown on Tulip's face. We'll get to that in just a second, guys. Happy belated Thanksgiving to all. Doster, what was the Thanksgiving like in the Doster household?
It was crowded. There was a lot of people here. I smoked a 22-pound turkey, and we went to town on that thing. Mashed potatoes were a solid B+. You know, the stuffing wasn't the best stuffing I've ever had, but it was good enough. It got the job done. And, you know, there was a lot of bourbon and a lot of beer. And that's probably what the most important part of Thanksgiving is, right?
Yeah. LaTulip, anything to share?
Not much, other than learned what tryptophan was, thanks to Rob a few days before experiencing it myself firsthand.
Yeah.
We're more of a ham family. That we have turkey, but we're more of a ham family than we are turkey. Just mixing some syrup in there. We may be off the beaten path a little bit there, but you're making a face, Rob. Don't like that?
Ham with syrup? Is that what you just said?
Try it.
Yeah.
Is that like a normal thing? Do people do that?
I doubt it. No, highly doubt it. Highly doubt it's normal, but it's been a staple in the LaTulip household for a long time.
Okay.
Yeah, I've heard
Makes
about
sense
it.
now that you
I've
don't
heard
know
about
what
it.
tryptophan is. Like you know what ham with syrup is, and you don't know what tryptophan is. And all of a sudden these dots are starting to connect for me, Mike.
Yeah. Nothing to say. No day. By the way, no tryptophan, no problem for the UConn Huskies today, as they remain the thorn in the side of the Fighting LaTulips. Fourth straight win over Illinois for UConn. Final score from the Garden: Huskies 74, Illini 61. Little shot clock controversy in the final minutes there in Storrs South. We'll get to that in just a second as well. Let's start on the winning side. Doster, you were there in-house watching the Huskies drop 10 threes in the world's maybe most objectionable floor that I think I've ever seen put at MSG. But nevertheless, what was your reaction to the win?
I thought that the first probably 16 minutes of that game was about as good as UConn is going to play. You know, I thought that solo ball really got it going a little bit. Silas Demery was kind of able to get to the rim and create off the bounce. And to me, you know, we've seen Terrace Reed have some big blow-up games, and we know what Alex Karaban can be as a player and the connective piece. And I thought we can kind of get into this today, but I thought that today was a perfect example of what makes him such a useful and effective kind of rotation player and you know, fourth or fifth starter for a team like UConn. But I thought we saw how good they can be at the start of this game when the threes were going down, when they were able to get out in transition, when they were forcing some of those turnovers. You know, I think at this point, that is kind of the difference right now between where UConn can be and where UConn is. It's the fact that Solo is still shooting under 25% from three, and Silas Demery had moments in the BYU game, but has yet to really kind of look like the guy that we thought was going to come in and be one of the most impactful transfers in the country. That's the next step. They're healthy now. Well, mostly healthy. Paris Reed and Braylon both had a minutes restriction tonight, but once those two guys get going, the next step for this team is to get arguably their two best players, Solo Ball and Silas Demery, playing like their two best players.
Go ahead, LaTulip.
Yeah, I think on the Illinois side, what frustrates me, and Rob touched on it, just the beginning of that game, and Rob and I theorized what the matchups were going to be heading into this game. I just felt like
we weren't
asking
even close.
A lot of. Well, they all happened at some point during the game. It was just they didn't start that way. But Mirkovic, that's a lot to ask for him to match up with Karaban. And it's not just we talked about this previously, Rob, but it's not just about, hey, it's a tough matchup because he'll give you 25. It's what he means in that offense to UConn, and how if you don't have that spot figured out, it can collapse the rest of it. And so I just felt like with Solo Ball struggling coming in this game, shooting the ball, and with how important of a piece Karaban is, you bust a switch early for a Karaban 3 to make it, I think, 6-2. And then Solo ball hits the first 3 of the game. Kylan Boswell's guarding him off ball. And once Solo gets into that painted area, you have to get attached. Because if he gets anywhere under the basket, he's coming back off. You know that, Rob, and you know that too, Sam. So Kylan gives too much space there to Solo, and he's able to come off inside foot and knock down a 3. But the other part that was frustrating me defensively for Illinois was it's a tall task, right? Guarding Karaban, guarding ball, especially when they're coming off those curl cuts, those away screens that coming back towards the ball. So the help that actually needs to come is not from the big man retreating in the paint. It's not from the guy chasing over the top. It's from the guy in the next to the ball gap. Stojakovic, it happened once. Boswell, it happened up top. But when that guy makes that entry pass from the top of the key to the guy curling off, you have to jump to the ball. If you don't jump to the ball, now Karaban and ball can come off with kind of unabated and get into that shot in rhythm. And I thought there were a couple times throughout the games where they did do that and took it away from UConn. But letting those two guys get confident early, that's everything for UConn. And I thought it helped them on obviously offensively, but it gives you confidence defensively. We'll get into rotations and all that stuff, but I just thought some of those miscues early set the tone for Illinois on that end.
It was the Karaban matchup to me, and what makes it so difficult. And we talked about this on Top Dogs, Latula, but I want to elaborate on it here because I think he is what makes guarding them so problematic, because he can he can hold his own kind of playing as a 4, right? And I thought he did a pretty good job against Mirkovic in the post. Mirkovic got he got on the offensive glass a couple times. You give that up a little bit because you make a 4-man have to chase him around, right? And if you don't have the 4-man guarding Alex Karaban, when Braylon Mullins comes back, you're going to have a 4-man guarding Braylon Mullins, which is even worse matchup. So he's able to run off those screens. He's able to come off those curls. He's able to, come off of some of these DHOs and get into the paint and snake dribble it and be able to play 2-on-1 as almost like fundamentally a point guard coming off of those screens. And when you have a guy like Mirkovic guarding him there, 1, Mirkovic is a freshman. 2, he is 6'8", 250. He's not built to be chasing people around screens like that. And that's why they are so difficult to guard, because they make you match up with them. I think the way that you take advantage, and I've said this before, the way you take advantage of UConn is you got to have someone like a Bryce Hopkins or a Koa Pete at the 4 spot that is able to run around a little bit with Karaban, but can also get in there and just be really, really physical and go through his chest from the perimeter, right? Those big, powerful guys that are the combo forwards are the ones that really give him the most trouble. And I don't think Mirkovic did that. And that's part of why UConn was able to win this game. And it wasn't just, he shot 4 for 10, he had 12 points, but he had 5 assists. It was the way that he was able to kind of get a foot in the paint and find somebody else, kick it out, spray it out. Getting him going really early in that game was something where it makes UConn's offense click. I think you can see a direct line, like where it goes from how effective Karaban is running the offense to how good UConn's offense looks. Like that is how you know if they're playing well, is if Alex Karaban is playing well.
Well, I think the other thing too, I was just going to say the other thing too with Karaban is he's not a guy that when he comes off a screen, he's going to get downhill and like combo dribble. You cut him off, he dribbles through his legs, gets back to the front of the rim. But what he can do in a straight line is keep you behind him, keep you on his back, and get that like hostage dribble. He can do that too. And so it puts the big in trouble if you're going to retreat and play off and play like drop coverage when he comes off that curl cut. He's a good enough passer to where I mentioned the jumping the ball. There was one time Illinois did it and they threw it right back to Malachi Smith for a 3. When Kylan was trying to play good defense and jump to the ball, Karaban just took one dribble, threw it right across to Malachi, and he hits one. And that's, again, like that is what UConn makes you pay more than any team in America for defensive miscues. You can talk about all these Purdue, all these different teams in America. UConn, because of the way they're structured and because of the type of offense that they run, and Karaban being the kind of the through line through all of it, is what makes them so difficult. So I thought his impact, he had the 3 blocks. They tried to challenge him at the rim a couple times and he held up. I just felt like with Mirkovic, you talked about that matchup, but they doubled the post a few times and Illinois got kickouts and straight line drives because they weren't just letting Karaban play straight up down there the whole time. So I thought they went away from that. I thought Mirkovic took some ill-advised threes early in the clock. And that's just, in addition to the defense that I'm talking about for Illinois, you can't also go, whatever they ended up 6 of 29 from 3 and expect to beat UConn. And I don't think that Illinois took advantage end of first half, those final 6 minutes, 4 to 6 minutes of the first half, the first probably 3 to 4 minutes of the second half. And then even when they tried to fight back, you can't let a team jump on you that many times in a game. And then you get the call, the controversial call. Not to say that they didn't deserve that call, but you shouldn't be in that situation to have to rely on that type of call, even though in my opinion, it was a horrible call, even after the review, unbiased, of course. But just a lot there I think Illinois needs to figure out from a rotation standpoint, from a continuity standpoint. Mullins and Reed coming back, they weren't, they didn't have the production today, but you can see those guys coming back. They don't rock the boat in terms of integration. They don't rock the boat in terms of oh man, we got to bring Terrace Reed back in, and he's just a high usage guy. Braylon Mullins is a high usage guy. Petrovic and Stojakovic coming back in for Illinois in the past couple games, that's a lot to adjust to because those guys play a certain way, especially offensively. So those are the kinks Illinois has to work out here moving forward.
Rob, if I said to you yesterday during your Thanksgiving dinner, you're sitting down eating the smoked turkey, having some bourbon, UConn would be up 9 at the half, but Demery wouldn't score or have an assist in the second. Solo Ball would go 1 for 6 in the final 20, which is 2 points. Braylon Mullins and Terrace Reed would combine for 4 points for the entire game. I would venture to guess that you would have had some concerns there, but the depth for this team came out to play today. 31 points from the bench for UConn, 11 points on the other side. That was another kind of staggering difference or discrepancy within the game. Like how crucial is that going to be for UConn going forward to be able to go to that depth? Because as you well know, injuries pile up as the season goes along.
Yeah, Mally's world, man. Malachi Smith was sensational tonight. He's been really, really good in UConn's big games. He is kind of like your ideal backup point guard because I think that he's been through enough in college basketball where he's not concerned with proving how good he is at this point. He just wants to go out there and win. When you've had the injuries that he's dealt with throughout his career and some of the losses that he's dealt with throughout his career, at some point, you just want to be on a team that's going to be able to make a run in March and put you in a situation where you have a chance to be able to win some stuff and maybe experience something you wouldn't be experiencing otherwise. 14 points, 9 assists, just 1 turnover. They kind of did something unique in the second half, Mike, where they put Ben Rickhouse on Malachi Smith and they tried to match up small for small and size for size with UConn. And I think that's kind of where he was able to take advantage of it. And, he got a couple paint touches. He was able to create some shots out of that. But having that impact player off the bench, they probably legitimately go 9 deep, UConn does this year. And that's about what you want. And when you have guys that are not concerned, even veterans like Jalen Stewart and Jaden Ross are, I don't want to say they're happy with the roles that they have, but they are willing to make the sacrifices to be able to win for the roles that they have. And when you have 2 guys like that, and when you have Malachi Smith, and I'll tell you what, Eric Ryba, I was really worried about him during his senior season in high school because he did not have a great senior year playing high school ball. And there was some kind of scuttle out there that maybe he's going to end up doing what Darius Adams did and decommitting and trying to find someplace else to play. But he had a great summer playing with the German U19 team. And he came in and his impact, it's those 2 guys, right? Like the lack of a point guard last year. And now you have 2 guys when Silas isn't playing well that can go out and win a game for you. And the fact that Terrace Reed can play 15 minutes in a game and you still get, 8.7 boards from Ryba. I think he had 3 blocks and just another 7-footer that's not going to get bullied. You're right, Sam. It's the depth of this group reminds me a lot of that 2023 team.
Agreed. LaTulip, I do want to read to you here, and then we can get to the interview. Rob caught up with Danny Hurley at the Garden. We'll get to that in just a second. But you guys also mentioned this in Top Dogs. This Illinois team had out-rebounded everybody that they have played up until this point. Wasn't a huge discrepancy in this game, but it was enough to let the Huskies recycle it and get a couple second chance points. If you could pinpoint kind of a facet of this game for Illinois that was the biggest reason that they fell today, and maybe the biggest concern going forward that you have? What would that be?
I think I tie it all back to the continuity that they're searching for with the rotations. Because I think right now you have too much volatility with the different lineups that you have, meaning, hey, here's this lineup that gives us a little bit offensively, but it's poor defensively. Or, hey, here's this lineup like they had at the end of the first half when they put in Brandon Lee, when they put in Zavonimir, when they put in Ben Humrickhouse, and they stabilized things defensively, but you couldn't gain enough room, or you couldn't get enough back offensively. So it just felt like every time you looked up, it's like it's still between 9 and 11. It's still between 9 and 11. And I think that's where this Illinois team is going to need to grow, is finding that and maybe leaning one way or the other. But I also look at, Andre Stojakovic, and this is where I think, and I don't necessarily mean this literally, but like this is where the games where he kind of has to make his money, meaning like Texas Tech and Alabama, two teams that are going to switch, two teams that are going to allow you to play the matchup hunting game. They're going to allow you to isolate. And when you get into games against a UConn who wants to pack the paint a little bit more, who wants to clog gaps a little bit more, who wants to send another body at you when you drive and then help off of that, can you still be effective? And that's my challenge, I guess, to Andre Stojakovic, is saying, well, if you can't get it on straight line drives like you did against Texas Tech and Alabama, can you get more in transition? Can you get more in secondary transition when matchups aren't perfect? Now you can attack early. Can you get more back on the offensive glass at 6-7 and springy and mobile? And can you get a couple more buckets that way? Can you get more extra opportunities for your teammates that way? And I think all of that, to me, ties back to the defense, because you can't get out and run like that if you don't get consistent stops. And that's really the issue right now for Illinois. I think you can look at the 6 of 29 shooting it, but I just think in these type of games, it's why Michigan State is Michigan State. It's why they don't need to be anywhere near the top of the Big Ten in 3-point shooting. It's because every single game, they bring their defense and they bring their rebounding. And that has to be the mindset, figuring out a way. And I know it's not the most athletic team, but that's not all what rebounding is. That's not all what defense is. It's good being positionally. It's using your leverage. It's the scouting report. I think there's another play in the second half where Karaban gets a back screen for a layup, and you're sitting there wondering, like, man, how does he just get free for that layup? And then you go and watch it. It's solo ball setting the screen. So yes, it's a challenge because you don't want to help off a solo ball. But Kylan Boswell, instead of giving Ben the room and backing off and letting him get through, he flipped his hips to prepare for the next screen for solo. So there was no one to help Ben Humrickhouse on the backside, and it's a Karaban layup. So being sharper with those defensively, that's what it comes down to. The shooting is the shooting. I personally don't believe that you have to be a great shooting team to be a great team. We've seen that proven throughout college basketball, and that just has to be the next step for Illinois, is finding that continuity in the rotations and improving on the defensive end.
Yeah. Seems like, they're just not really good enough on the defensive side right now, that when the offense disappears like it did today, I guess if there was some solace to take away from that game for you, LaTulip, it's that, it wasn't a repeat of that Elite Eight all over again, right? Down by 21 points at this time, and then they brought it back within 7. You mentioned that's when the shot clock thing happened, but with a trip coming up to Nashville, I believe that's coming up next week, take on a top 20 Tennessee team that just beat Houston. They got some stuff to figure out before next Tuesday. All right, let's go ahead and get to this little quick interview that our man Doster had with the head man, Danny Hurley.
Now let me welcome onto the Field of 68 After Dark, Dan Hurley, fresh off of a 74-61 win over Illinois. Felt good to kind of get this one in the Garden. 18,000 fans here day after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it was a big win, and just preparing for them, and looking at their team, we knew it'd be a formidable challenge, and I think it's the type of team that you're going to have to beat, in an Elite Eight game, or just with their size, and I think they're going to get a lot better during the course of the year. They got a lot of new pieces and a lot of talented pieces like we do. So I don't think either team was at their best today, but I think it was an important win for us, especially with the stretch of games that we're involved in.
Terrace back. We finally got a chance to see Brandlin playing a real game, right? What was it? How nice is it to be able to have your team at full strength here?
It was nice to just have 15 guys in practice at least the day before. Today's Friday, so they practiced Wednesday, and then we gave them off on Thanksgiving because they needed a little bit just because these guys are dealing with serious things. So they were both at around a 15-minute restriction today. So hopefully when we get to Kansas, that'll jump into the 20s or so.
When Solo Ball and Silas really kind of get going, right? We saw it for about a 12-minute stretch in the first half, and then Solo didn't decide, but he started missing some shots again, and then Silas got in a little bit of foul trouble. What happens with this team when those two get going and playing their best?
Yeah, I just think that Solo is obviously dealing with the mental thing, and he's just in the locker room talking to Ray Allen. I stuck them in a room together, so hopefully that gets rectified there. But yeah, I mean, those guys, Silas, the foul trouble kind of wrecked his game, I thought. But then, Malachi was awesome. And we were all living in Mally's world today, and that was the most fun I've had in that world. So, we got the 2 point guards. So, I think that's the difference with this year's teams, the depth we got at that position. And I want to see what we can be when we get, Taris and Braylon really up to speed, because I think it's going to solve a lot of our offensive issues, because we've become a little bit too much like a donut when we don't have the big fella, just a little bit. And I think that affected the quality of the shots that Solo was getting as the game went on.
Bengals won last night. You guys won today. A little bit better this Thanksgiving than last Thanksgiving?
Where was I? Oh, my God. And Bob, I mean, I was so, just the fact that I had to watch Bob and look at that court and watch those rims and the balls bouncing around and going in or not going in, and just being brought back to Maui, and Bob almost avenging the family. He did go 2-1, so Bobby's definitely better. But it would have been great if Bob could have gotten the championship and avenged the Hurley name there. The name, bring respect back to the name in Maui, but I thought he had a great trip. But yeah, what a difference a year makes.
We're going to try to make sure that this is the member of the Field of 68 that's here from now on at UConn games. You good with that?
Good. Yeah, me and Goodman, right? And we're working on things. I mean, there's been damage that's been done, but I think we could work through it, because I go way back with Jeff. Slam dunk to the beach days, first year. I mean, we go way back. That's why I don't give up on him.
Look, some of us already have, Dan. Appreciate you, man.
So a very happy Danny Hurley after the win there. UConn certainly won the game. They played better for, by and large, a good portion of that game. However, there was a shot clock violation, or a lack thereof, I should say, with the final 2+ minutes of the game. Illinois probably should have had the ball down by 7 with 2:10 left in the game. Instead, Malachi threw up a heave after a Caravan miss that missed the whole rim. They got the offensive rebound. Malachi made and banked in a 3-point play, ended up being a 4-point play because he got fouled on the play. But for the officials to go to the monitor there and not come away with the correct call was baffling, to say the least. But Mike, what did you make of that call? I've never seen something so blatantly clear for an official to go to the table and then come away and say, nope, actually, let's just stick with the original call.
I think two things can be true. It was a horrible review. It absolutely should have been Illinois ball. And I think it's a lot closer than people think. I think it's like
Sure.
probably like 3/4 of a second, or maybe a full second. But it was after the shot clock would have expired for sure. That can be true. And it can also be true that Illinois shouldn't have been in the position to need that. I think there's enough that took place in that game to where you shouldn't have to rely on a call like that. Down 7 with 2:15 left. And who knows? They definitely had all the momentum in that situation. Does it mean they win the game? No. Does it mean they have a better chance? Sure. But I don't understand. The broadcast was saying it. They're like, oh, yeah, this is going to go the other way. I'm looking at Brad Underwood's face. I'm kind of trying to read his body language as he talks to the officials. Seems like everything is trending in the direction of being Illinois ball. And I just think, like, if it's too close or you can't determine it because the shot clock reset, I'd even be fine with UConn ball, 2 seconds left under the basket, or hey, they have the possession arrow. We don't know. UConn has the possession arrow. Anything. I mean, that effectively ended the game, and that sucks to see. But if you're Illinois, you don't want to be in that position in the first place to have a call like that. Kind of, you end up ending the game effectively.
Yeah. I mean, to be frank, all I've seen is a clip that our producer Trevor has sent to us, and he is an Illinois fan, and I have don't know whether or not to trust whether or not this is accurate. Whether
there's enough out there. There's enough out there.
Like this Zapruder film. My guess is what happened is the officials went through it and said, "All right, when the time changes, it's going to be like 2:13 with 3 seconds." Right. So when we get to 2:11, then there's still going to be 1 second left on the shot clock. And they saw that the foul was committed, and you can see Jake Davis reaching in at 2:11, and they're just saying, okay, that's when this was the foul happened. So we're going to allow, keep this continuing. I'm not complaining about it.
Insane.
I'll take it.
Which is insane.
Yeah. It's what I will say is this. I think that was lucky for UConn. And I also believe that was something where if that goes the other way and that gets flipped, we saw UConn blow. It was 21 and got down to 7 here, right? We saw them against BYU be up by 20, and then BYU had the ball with a chance to tie it late in that game. I am starting to be a little concerned about UConn's ability to close games. It's one thing they do this thing now where if someone scores, they'll inbound the ball and let it bounce and let it roll because it'll allow the clock to run. And then you pick up the ball and it's run 5 seconds off, and you do that every single time. And eventually you do that for 12 possessions. You knock a minute off the game, right? It's time wasting. It's a classic, European thing, especially in European soccer, which, by the way, I don't know if you noticed, but Hurley and Luke Murray do the VAR symbol instead of the twirl for a review. You could tell that all those dudes is EuroLeague. But I am starting to get a little bit worried about their ability to close out games. It feels like they get this big lead, they take their foot off the gas, and they just kind of say, we're going to drain this thing away instead of being aggressive. And I would like to start seeing them put their foot on people's necks here when you have a chance to be able to put something away. But, a win is a win. I'm not going to pretend like it's a bad win. So they're in a really good spot right here, and I'm feeling good about this program, man. And honestly, I would feel really good about where Illinois is right now too. My gut says the threes that they got and the shots that they got for the most part were the shots that they wanted in that game, Mike. And you could tell me if I'm completely wrong, but I think they more or less got what they wanted offensively, and those shots didn't go down. And that's just something that's going to happen in college basketball games.
Yeah, I think so. And last point I'll make too is to UConn's late game offense. Illinois made that run when they started, and this is like a question for Illinois defensively. If you're a little bit overmatched from an athleticism standpoint, do you just start running and jumping a little bit? Is the conservative defense of drop coverage just a little too conservative for this personnel grouping? Because when they came back was when Petrovic was in the game, and I have questions about Petrovic defensively, but is he a little bit better on the floor defensively when you just kind of run and jump and create a little bit of havoc? I thought UConn rushed shots in that time frame of the game more than they had in previous parts of the game. But I also think for UConn's late game offense, how many real matchup winners do they have where when in late game offense things get more simplified, they don't get more complicated. So when you run very long form offense like UConn does, Kentucky had this issue last year, and actually it hurt them climbing back into games when they got down. So I'd be curious in a situation for UConn, if they get down, does this rear its head?
They did.
Struggle to climb back
in. They did. They were able to come back against Arizona. What I'll say is I think this changes once Terrace Reed is healthy and you can throw the ball into the big fella and not have to worry about anything. Yeah. And two, once Silas Demery figures out when and where and how he's supposed to attack, because he still looks like we've seen it in flashes. We haven't seen him be the best version of his